And you started the coachable, teachable thing, trainable was really a big deal. And it seems like you're being redundant, coaching and trainable, coaching and teachable, but it's not, right?
Mm,
It's really two
it's
very
not.
different things. So let's expound on that just real quickly. Coachable and teachable, or coachable and trainable, or however we want to put it. Kind of break those two down for me.
So when you have someone who's coachable, they are willing to do all of the things, right? They're willing to put in the hours. They're not, I won't say they're yes men, because a lot of the times it's like, if I'm going to coach you, you're going to do exactly what I say. That's not necessarily what you're looking for in someone who's coachable. You're looking for someone who's going to ask the questions and, try to figure out, like, what is it that I'm trying to learn?
Are you tired of working more for less profits in your home service business? What if I could show you $100,000 in hidden annual profits in your business in less than 3 minutes? Would you be interested? And not only show you where, but how to create that 100K in 6 months or less without additional advertising or marketing spend, guaranteed. Just go to sharpenthespearcoaching.com to see how truly simple it is. That's sharpenthespearcoaching.com. Do it now. And we are back on STS Sharpen the Spear podcast with another incredible guest. I've got Priscilla El-Amin with us, and I'm excited for this conversation because we've been hitting some things lately about people and teams and how to work with them and developing your business so your business actually runs properly, how to navigate this, right? And Priscilla is going to bring a ton of experience in this area to our conversation today. Without any further ado, as always, Priscilla, no one knows Priscilla better than Priscilla. So Priscilla, little backstory, bring us up to speed. We'll get into the conversation.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Richard, for having me. I'm excited to engage in that conversation today. For those of you listening, again, my name is Priscilla El-Amin. I am currently in the organizational development space. I work with a healthcare system primarily. In addition to that, I have been in the education sphere for several years as a building administrator. I have taken the role of building culture, not just with students, but with families and with the staff. I had the pleasure of being the founding principal of the Lincoln Academy Charter School in Beloit, Wisconsin. So I got to build some culture, build some team from the ground up. And I'm excited right now to be working with executive leaders, helping them to figure out what is it that I want my culture to look like and how do I get it there. So with a decade of experience, I'm humbled to be here and hopefully give someone a nudge in the right direction or a nugget that'll help them continue to move with their team.
Excellent, Priscilla, and I know you will. It's going to be more than one nugget. We're going to have a lot of nuggets. I just know it. But let's start with, there's something, I was on another podcast talking about this particular topic, and we're talking about the development of teams and people, and where I was in the first 20 years of my first business, I was not into that. Okay. I was like, you're a good guy. You work hard. You do what I tell you, you're in. Okay. That was the end of the development. Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's go to work. We work. And you know what? These guys are with me for over 10 years. We built amazing things. It was part luck, part I kind of got people like me. Okay, that's who I hired, was someone like me. So I'm like, well, at least I'll get along with them, and that's all that really mattered. So I've learned over the years, it's been 35 years or whatever, that team element, that if we call it workforce development or personnel development or whatever it is there's a lot of science now, there's data, there's all this stuff that goes into choosing, whether it's, assessments and all these kind of different things. So I want to kind of get into that to begin with, because I think one of the biggest challenges for most businesses is putting the right people from the get-go on the team and where they fit in there. Can you kind of talk about that a little bit to begin with?
Yes, of course. To connect, like your background and your experience, there are multiple generations in the workforce now. It's becoming more and more broad. And with that comes shifts in expectations, shifts in what work is supposed to look like, what work is supposed to feel like. So when we think about how we stack our workforce, we want it to be broad enough to encourage and develop those who are there, who have stood the test of time, but then also preparing ourselves for the future of the workforce. And if we're talking candid, the future of the workforce has a whole different bucket of expectations than when you were starting out with your team of 12, right? What work looks like, how long the day lasts, what I'm supposed to be paid. All of that is different depending on when you started to join the workforce. So to dial in on how do you make up a team? How do you stack it so that you have the right people at the table? You really want to be strategic. And especially nowadays, you want to look for people who have the right culture, like the right personality. They're talking about the right things. They have the right energy, because energy is hard to shift. It's hard to get someone on board who's positive, who is engaged and excited and just seem like they're going to be a good team player. You can teach someone skill. You can get them up to board on how they can do the job operationally, but you can't often change a personality. So when you're thinking about those puzzle pieces, you really want to make sure you start with, do I have the right type of person? And are they coachable? Are they teachable? Because once you start there, I think you can bring just about any type of skill set to your workforce.
Yeah, I think that coachable, teachable thing, that's something I really picked up on about 15 years ago, maybe. Really kind of getting done with my first business, starting the next thing, and I'm getting into personal development because I never did that. You know, well, how could I get any better? That was my thought. But I started really getting into that and seeing like, okay, and you start the coachable, teachable thing, trainable was really a big deal. And it seems like you're being redundant, coaching and trainable, coaching and teachable, but it's not, right?
Mm,
It's really two
it's
very
not.
different things. So let's expound on that just real quickly. Coachable and teachable, or coachable and trainable, or however we want to put it. Kind of break those two down for me.
So when you have someone who's coachable, they are willing to do all of the things, right? They're willing to put in the hours. They're not, I won't say they're yes men, because a lot of the times it's like, if I'm going to coach you, you're going to do exactly what I say. That's not necessarily what you're looking for in someone who's coachable. You're looking for someone who's going to ask the questions and, try to figure out, like, what is it that I'm trying to learn? Help me make the connections, help me build, help me grow. That's someone who's coachable, who's eager, and they're not just waiting for you to give them the information, they're seeking it. They want to sit down with you, they want to take as much from you as possible. Someone who's teachable is willing to absorb that information, but they may not necessarily seek it out. So yes, I'm willing to listen to the nuggets that you have. I'm willing to listen to it, and I may pick up things and go forward with it, but I'm not necessarily going to put myself out there and say, I'm hungry, feed me. So you definitely want people on the team that you can teach, because everyone needs to grow in some facet. But more than anything, you want people that you can coach, because they're going to seek that information. They're going to be inspired to get it.
That is excellent. That is a very good. Thank you for that. That's good. I never broke the two down into specifically, here's the definition. I kind of just knew what it was, and I wasn't quite right, but it's really good. So I think that's a key thing when we're looking for those right team members, because my big thing, I agree with you. Competency can be taught. Okay. I
Mhm.
can get people more competent. We can skill them up. We can send them to train. We can do all that stuff. It's really the character aspect that we're
Mhm.
looking for. Like you said, who's got the energy, the character, are they gonna be a fit with the team, with the culture of the business? Because that we can't correct. I usually tell people, well, unless they're like 6, then I can work with them. But if they're
Mhm.
19, 20, whatever, like that's beyond my pay grade. Okay. They're pretty set in who they are, right? There may have some
Mhm.
life changing moment and be different people later. We get all that. But for our needs as an employer, okay, right now we need that person who's got the character that's a fit. And sometimes, have you found it to be a challenge to really define what their character is? And are they a fit? Or do you have, well, what we want to do is build out when you're coaching with people, here's what we're looking for. Here's the attributes that we need to have. We need to discover if that person has those attributes, because that's our starting point. How does that work for you?
So that's something that a lot of people struggle with. Typically, when they're saying, I want them to have good character, they're looking for themselves. I want them to be like me in these different ways. So when you sit down and you really start to ask those questions, where Like, what does it mean, trust mean to you? What is integrity? What do you expect as far as their service driven and responsibility? When you sit down and you push those types of questions back, a lot of people are oftentimes like, wait, what does that have to do with the job? What does that have to do with the work? Because they don't necessarily look at the defining features of character and how that impacts culture. And a lot of the times you get leaders who were great operationally. It's like, I was the best pharmacist, or I was the best plumber, or I was the best electrician, whatever it is, I was the best at it. And now I'm promoted into this leadership role. But I don't know how to people. I don't know how to lead people, which is completely different than just peopling, right? So when you start to ask those questions, like, what does trust look like? How do you build it? What does it look like to provide a psychologically safe environment? You get people who are stuck because to them, you get in, you get out. You come, you do the work, you do what your boss asks you to do. You follow this, if I'm talking real colors, it's a gold mindset. For any of you out there who are real colors fans, you know that gold traditional mindset, right? It's,
Right.
this is what my boss says, do, these are the rules, I'm going to follow it. But that's not necessarily how you build culture and how you build a team, especially now.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that because I'm not a people manager. I'm a visionary. I'm a founder. I'm a builder. I'm a business builder. And that, like, to manage people, you don't want me managing people unless you don't want people. So I know my limits. I've gotten better. Okay. And there's a couple of reasons. One thing I tell people, I go, well, I was like a -4 on the empathy scale. Okay. I had none. I had less than none. And I had to work myself up to like 0. So when you don't have that kind of empathy gene, I'll call it, hard to
Mm-hmm.
manage people when you have 0 empathy, unless
It
you're
is.
managing other 0 empathy people. And then maybe you can get away with it, but then you're just snarky to each other all the time. So I have uh, a great understanding now of management and what it is when you're managing people, right, and things like that. And that's why we're talking about this, because I think a lot of owners, like you say, hey, we got skills, we're craftsmen, we're technicians, we get into business, we do a great thing, we're really good at what we do. And I always tell people, yeah, we're better than the guy we used to work for. That's why we started this business. But I
Exactly.
don't know anything about business, and I don't know anything about people. I just know about HVAC, and that's what I do. And I can build water features for me. I can do this stuff. So this is a really important topic, and I want to encourage owners, business owners that are listening. You need to be coachable and teachable in this area, okay? Because this is going to make all the difference in your business. Because if you put the right people there, they can actually run your business. And that's our goal. Our goal is to have others run the business. So we focus on our 5%, that 5% only we can do in the business, right? So this is really important. It doesn't matter if you have 4 people or 400, right? I think it crosses all the employee levels, the numbers, everything else, right? Now, you manage a lot of people. Like, you do this on a pretty large scale. And I'm not exaggerating. I'm kind of in awe of that. Like, that's like, I can't manage. I have 6 kids and I struggle with that. Okay. So I look at people doing that. So tell us what that's like. Just, I mean, high level when you're dealing with, because that's a lot of people, right? Well, there's hundreds, 300, 350, whatever. It's a lot of people. And it's just, is there a lot of delegation in this? Do you have systems? Have you built a hierarchy, where you're empowering people to work with different people? And what does that actually look like for you?
Well, transparently, it all starts with that empathy lens. Because as
See,
you're working with,
I don't have any.
it's extremely important. We gotta build that up for you now. As you're working with people, it's extremely important for you to understand that everyone is experiencing things differently, even in that moment. You can be in a room full of people, and what you walk away with is could be completely different depending on where in the room you were sitting, your background, all of those different pieces. So when I approach how I support our leaders, it's a very empathetic approach. It's, what is it that you notice? What is it that you feel? What do you think your team is noticing about you? It's all of those questions that try to help them get to the root cause for what's truly going on. So with every leader that I approach, whether it's a one-on-one scenario, I'm always getting feedback. I'm always trying to figure out what is it that you see, what is it that you're observing and feel. I think that other pieces, you can't truly delegate until you've assessed the need, right? So it's never my desire to go in with these groups and be the only person doing the work. Because then when I disappear, it seems like it was a band-aid. It's a quick
Right.
fix. My leader's not truly invested, those types of things. So I'm truly driving and riding along with the leader because I want to be able to step out and for people to truly feel like this is our new culture. This is our way of being. So along with being empathetic, it's also how am I supporting the leader and framing this in a way that they see the need, that they see that they're truly the drivers in the change or the impact? Because a lot of the times that's a part of the issue. We can say, my team isn't functioning properly. I don't have the right culture. These guys don't get along, whatever the case may be. But when we truly get down to it, we start to see that there are systems and things that we can put in place as leaders. There are things that we can model as leaders that are going to shift those perspectives and shift those habits. And not temporarily, but shift them in the long run. So when I'm supporting those leaders, it's all about me being empathetic and listening to them, but helping them see their role in it and how that influences what results they're getting and how we can shift or tweak different systems, different things within their role to get them long-term results. Culture doesn't change overnight.
Right.
It's true work, but it's true work that when you do it and you get in there and you really start to pull out those weeds and fix some things, your garden is beautiful and it lasts a really long time.
Yeah, I love it. It reminds me of one of the things that, I'm a big fan and believer of is leaders create more leaders, and that's basically your goal, right? If you don't, you have to train the first ones, right? You have to get them. And once they know the system, and I love that the system is put in place because everyone needs the guardrails. We all have to operate in these boundaries because that's where we can succeed. If there's no boundaries, people they just go in where they think they should go, which is
Mhm.
seldom where you want them to go as the top leader, right? So building that out is really important. That's a really good takeaway for people to understand. Like, if you're not doing that for your team, because we do it a lot, right? So we take the job position, we create functions, we get expectations, we have consequences, right? We have all those pieces that enables them to win. They know exactly where and how to operate. We know how to train them and they're able to what we call run for the goalposts. And we teach them what success looks like on the day, the week, the month, the quarter, the year, right? When people know how to win, guess what they do? They win,
They
right?
win.
And
They
you can
win.
pat them on the back and you say, keep winning, keep winning. We like winners, so
And the cool thing, no, go for it. Go for it.
no, I was going to say, it's just, I'm just in total alignment with you here. I love it. I just love the structure of this. So keep going.
I was just going to say, there are two things that come to mind, two sayings that I've heard over my experience in different realms. The first one is a leader isn't judged as winning by the work that they do. It's not just about you. You're truly winning as a leader when the people underneath you are winning also. So thinking about that development, thinking about how you're building that team, how you're lifting those people through their own development is going to be important. And I think the other piece is, I had a mentor of mine who said she was having a conversation with someone and she's an entrepreneur. She has her own businesses. And the woman asked her, she said, well, do you do all of that? Do you like, do you do all of those pieces? Do you not delegate? And she's like, no, those are the pieces that I own as an entrepreneur in my business. And the woman looked at her and said, honey, you're not an entrepreneur. You're a hustler. You're still doing all of that work.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't gotten to the point where you've developed others to be able to lift that. Then your business truly isn't successful if it's only dependent upon you.
Exactly.
And that's where that culture piece comes into place too. It's like, how do you build your team round enough to be able to have the right people at the table so that if you need to walk away, if something in life hits you hard and you got to step back, or even just for the growth and the success of your business and your team. Train up the people. Give them the environment that they want to succeed in and grow in and watch your business thrive.
Yeah, Priscilla, I think what you're saying, is so true because we haven't we haven't built leadership. We haven't done systems, processes, all the other things to the point that we can trust someone else
Mhm,
to do the work. Can I leave for a month and come back and the place isn't burned down? It's that
mhm,
simple. I shouldn't have to call in every day, that kind of thing. But like you said, your approach is once you build, again, it's leaders creating leaders, understanding boundaries, working within these systems. People know how to win. And they can do that not necessarily on autopilot, but it's a structure. And I share this a lot with business owners. Like, if you want people to be happy at work, which is a difficult thing to do these days, okay? They need to be able to come and do what they're supposed to do, win, be successful, understand the vision of the business, the real why they're
mhm.
doing this, not to put A into B or to send these payables out and get these receivables. Like, what's the real why? Once you do that, people start working for purpose, right? And
Mhm.
once you get purpose as the main focal point, people, that's when their attitudes change. But at the same time, I tell people, if you're bringing in a great sales closer, right? Got a great salesperson, bring them on. God, I need him on my sales team. But you really don't have a sales system built out. You think he's going to save you or she? Well, guess what? You're lucky if they'll stay a week. Okay. Because they're
Mhm.
going to see there's like, how do I win here? I'm a closer. I'm not here to build your sales system. I'm here to, get in your system and win. So I always
Mhm.
tell people, I go, you haven't done the work first. You have to build this stuff out. Everything you're talking about, you have to put this stuff in place, then bring the people. Remember, it's always people into systems, not systems around people, right? They got to get
Exactly.
plugged into it because, as I like to tell everyone, people leave. They're all going to leave. It might be
Mhm.
5 years, might be 5 days, might be the 10 o'clock break. Okay. On the first day. Okay. But they're going to leave. It could be 20 years. Okay.
Yeah.
We need to understand that. And that's not a negative because hopefully you're like, hey, you're going to get great and someone else is going to want you to go next level that I don't have.
Thank you.
And we want you and I take it like personal. I'm like, I want when you go to this next level, cause I can't get you where you should be. I want them to say,
Mhm.
man, who trained you? Where'd you work? And I want you to talk about me. Okay. You can say how great it was there because I trained you up for the workplace, not just
Mhm.
for my business. And that's a little higher thinking as far as I'm concerned. But a great example I share once in a while is if I had a client and has a plumbing company, HVAC and plumbing. You go in his office, he had this wall, they call it the Wall of Fame. And all these pictures of these people who used to work for him, right? Not the current people. And you're like, and you see their name and you see their name and it says like 5 years or 7 years. That's how long they work for him. And now they
Mhm.
manage this place. Now they run this place. They started this
Mhm.
business and he celebrates that. And he has a party for them when they leave and he does the whole thing, gifts and everything, and off they go. And people are like, well, that's kind of odd. I go, well, it is and it isn't because people are going to leave. If they have ceilings because we have positions and we have places and may not be able to go. But at the same time, I tell them, I go, you got to think bigger. If this guy goes and he's running this whole campus now, he does this whole thing. Someone come and ask him, hey man, how'd you get into this work? Oh, I started with this company, man. They did this for me. They trained me. Then he said, can you give me a word for them? And now I'm getting these quality people who want to be like that guy who is great, right?
Mhm.
Being fed into my employment system, right? So I'm like, it really is a win-win if you're looking at the bigger picture, but the mindset of on the job that you're not trying to hold on to them so tight they're never going to leave because then you're kind of a hostage
Yes,
to your people.
it's it is. It is. But I think that's a mindset shift that I think a lot of people need to make. When I think about the job market and I started out in education, there were people who had taught in the same classroom 40 years, right? There is just this mindset or this belief that you get in a job and you stay there. That's dedication, that's loyalty. But there's something that needs to shift, because realistically, if a person gets sick or drops dead, they're going to fill that spot. They're going to need to plug someone else back into that system. That's the mindset of the millennial. That's the mindset of the Gen Z and Gen Alpha coming right up, that we're all irreplaceable to some extent. I mean, we're all replaceable to some extent.
Right.
So
Right.
they're not willing to just give all of their youth, all of their energy to a job where they don't see growth, or where they feel like, okay, my income is maxed here, my education opportunities are maxed here. I want to start looking. So you truly become a dynamic employer, a dynamic leader, when you're having those conversations with your employees and you're saying, what is it that you want to do next? Do we have opportunities in this organization where I can help put you in a program where you can get licensed in that, or you can get certified in that, so that you're more employable, so that other people see you as an opportunity? When you start thinking like that as a leader, that's when you're truly building a talent pipeline. Because as you mentioned, those people are going to go other places and they're going to glorify you. They're going to say, that's the leader that you want. And that funnel comes back to you. But then also think about the type of leaders that you're now saturating the workforce with.
Right.
If I'm a leader who shows the importance of developing my team, who shows the importance of getting to know and value and include each of the people that I work with, I'm now instilling those same habits, those same attitude into the people that I'm sending out into the workforce. So now there are that many more leaders out there who have that same mindset, who are growing people and who are passionate about the person. That's the
Yeah,
piece
you
that I think
can't.
we sometimes lose.
You're totally right. You can't have the unicorn leader. The
Mhm.
one guy who was good, the one teacher in all 12 years of school. You remember one teacher. Okay, you should remember them all. They all should be that good. But you had the one
Yeah.
guy who like cared and went the extra mile out. Mine was a second grade teacher who had me come in to learn how to read because I couldn't read for nothing. And that woman in a month got me like a year ahead in reading because she cared. Right. And that it's that kind of thing. But if that's the norm now, if people are developed that way, like you said, I think this is just another key takeaway is that leaders building leaders, but having a system that develops the leaders, right? So you have and I haven't done enough corporate. I've been self-employed like my whole life. So, but when you
Beautiful.
have but yeah, tell me about it. I don't understand. I'm unemployable. That's why. But if you've got a pool, okay, you got a manager pool, okay, you've got 25 managers at all different levels or whatever. Like, who is training these? What's the system these people go through from that first day on the job? What does it look like? Right? I know there's HR and there's onboarding and all this kind of stuff, but I find that there's so many breaks in that system. It's not a smooth transition because I think from the very get-go, like you're saying, they're not talking to this manager, whether they're personnel or they're over here on machinery or they're whatever, right? Like they're dealing with techs and this guy deals with office people or whatever. I don't think they've really talked to them and said, well, where are they really going? What truly is your experience? What's your approach? How would you handle this? I don't know if that happens a lot, but it's like, it's really teeing up those top leaders that are going to be able to train and bring this down and continue the cultural change and the development of all these other managers, because those managers are definitely going to go other places. Some of your top people may stay, get comfortable do the thing, but a lot of those lower ones, they're going to go somewhere.
Mhm.
So I think it's a really good point that this development of, I'll call it systemization, but I don't, just for lack of a better word, maybe you've got a better word, but being able to it's like having a training program, right? Like a lot of times when I develop with my businesses, I'm saying, okay, here's the position. Here's their job functions. This is what they do. Here's how they do it in the next column. And then there's the training of the how. This is what everyone forgets, the training of the how. So everyone, this is how you do, but how do we actually train them to understand, right? How you perform it? How are you going to work with this difference in people, a Gen Z, a Gen Xer, and a Gen Alpha in the same workplace, right? Because that is what's going on. Because Gen Xers and baby boomers are working longer, or whatever. I'm going to work longer because I want to. not because I have to, but but a lot of people I was talking to, I had a guest on talking about Gen Z and how he mentors them. And he's in the 70s, and we're going into all the advantages of this age group. It was really a great discussion because when you're in that different generation, and every generation does this, says that the upcoming generation, they're weak, they're soft, what they've been saying. When I was in the Marine Corps, okay, I was in the Marine Corps in the early 80s. I meet someone, 5 years ago, another Marine, and he goes, oh, we're in the end. And I tell him, he goes, oh, you were the real Marines, and I go, that's funny. We said that about the Vietnam guys, and the Vietnam guys said that about the World War II guys. And those guys said that about World War I guys. So it's all this kind of preconceived, you were real. So now why aren't they doing what we do? Right? The boomers telling the Xer, why don't you do it this way? And it's just not the case anymore. And I got caught in that too, Priscilla, because like it works. Well, for me,
Mhm.
okay. Like you're not looking at the exposure of this new generation, what's around them,
Mhm.
what they've grown up in, what they're exposed to. Like, and they have unique gifts. They have unique talents because of this. And that's what you got to look at, because if I'm the business owner, my business has to grow. It's never done growing. I have to evolve into the next, I'm going to air quote, economy, because that changes.
Mhm.
When I was coming up, there was no phones, cell phones. There was no
Mhm.
mobile phones. Okay. Like it was weird if a guy had one in a car. He was like a gazillionaire, he's driving around with a phone in his car, so I started to realize like, okay, we got to look at this differently. We have to see the actual talents they have, what they're exposed to. How do I optimize that in my business? Even if it's not right, I don't need it today, but I know in 3 years, these 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, they're going to be on my team, right? So that's kind of how I started thinking and helping my
Mhm.
clients. Like, we got to think different because it's too easy to be comfortable and think that our way is the way, and it's just one way.
Mhm. It is. It is.
That was a
So,
rant.
Richard,
Sorry.
no, as you were talking, there were a couple of things that came to mind, and I'm gonna say them out loud. Competency is one of them. First and foremost, you talked about chatting with the leaders that you work with and saying like, what is it that we want the people in this role to be able to do, and how are we going to train them up and get them there? That is so important to do before, because it allows you to vet your candidates better. In the world of AI, we have a ton of people creating resumes. Go resume creators, do your thing, get people out there in front of them. I am not knocking anyone's hustle. I love it. But on the back end, when you're submitting those resumes, what's happening is you have AI or people who are recruiters who are trained to look for these keywords, right? So they're just going based on these key positions or key things that these resumes have highlighted that potential employees are able to do. And they're tossing aside people who may be great candidates, who may get in this role and say, no, I don't have that certificate yet. But if you're looking for somebody hungry, somebody who's going to go and get it and who's going to add value to your organization, that's me. So like it's scary how many people, how many leaders are missing the opportunity to bring in quality candidates because they have this traditional way of looking at what a role can be or what a role should be. So thinking about like what competencies do I want this person to have and how can they be educated in it lets you know where you're willing to flex. Like if I'm posting this job, do I need to say that this person has A, B, and C? Am I looking for this unicorn? Or can I say that these are the things that I need them to come in with non-negotiable because I don't have the capacity to get them certified or trained, but I do have the capacity for these other areas. And I'm really going to focus on now, is this person eager? Are they thirsty? Are they ready to learn? And that's who I'm thinking about having at my table. So like that competency piece, like that's, if I could give any advice, is be careful what you're vetting out. Be careful how you're recruiting, because you can bring in a person and they can check all of those boxes, but they have like a bad disposition, they have the resting face, and it's not just the resting face, it's the resting personality. Like they just are
Yeah.
not the best people to have at the table. And you sit there and you end up feeling like, oh man, I really don't want this person on my team. But now that I've hired them, I have to go through all of the HR channels, get them on a PIP and all of the different things just to get them out the door.
Right.
Get them out the door.
Yeah. It reminds me, I was listening to the owners of OtterBox, the phone covers, the phone cases. So they're up to about 20,000 employees now, right? I mean, they started in their garage. Okay. You know what they have two requirements, and you'll like this: humble and hungry. Humble and hungry. That's what they want.
Yes.
That's who they're looking
Yes.
for. They're like, they have to start there. That is
Mm-hmm.
their starting place. If they're that, they can be on the team. And
Mm-hmm.
again, they've grown from their garage to 20,000 employees.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's awesome. And they produce, and they have an innovation mindset. So they have a 80-20. Get it
Mm-hmm.
80% of the way there and get it on the market and let our customers tell us what's wrong. And then they fix it. So you take that mindset into the entire company. We get stuff done and then we fix it. We get it done to the best of our ability. We don't chase perfection. So now everyone has this mindset of getting something to work, get it out there, and then problem solving. So they never lose the problem solving. It's really cool. It's just a very interesting, when you can break something down to 2 words. We want them humble and hungry. I'm like, see, that's where it's at. Everyone can grab onto that. And like,
Yep.
I know, right? We know what that is, right? There's no definitions needed. You're like, we get it, so
No, that's beautiful.
it's just kind of, it's kind of in line with all this. I think I think what you're saying with, like, even with the AI stuff in the resumes, you're right. The AI knows the keywords.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're on ZipRecruiter or you're in Indeed or whatever, AI is working with AI.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's no people. They're just, oh, you got the keywords. Oh, I'll put the keyword. I'm looking for the keyword. Like they're just, it's just this handoff, and then it gets in front of you, and it actually kind of makes your work harder in a sense. Like you have those and they did that, but it may or may not be them. Now we got to get them on the phone call. And that's why we have different, we've created strategic vision, read that. We have a process and a filter they go through before we're really even engaging them in person. Right. We understand, can they follow directions? And you build that to your team and your process so they totally know who you are, what you're after, right? What the vision of the company, what purpose are you working for? And a lot of companies need to start doing that more because, and I'm not even going to say it's a generational thing, because I don't think there's any generation that didn't want to work for purpose. That's kind of a dumb statement.
For sure.
I just wanted to be a tool. Okay, if I wanted to do, like, just go beat me against the wall all day and then put me back in the box. Okay, like no one wanted that. Everyone wants that purpose, but no one took time to develop it. It's kind of that antiquated industrial revolution stuff where they just wanted cogs in the wheel and they built it that way. Well, that's not what business is today, and
Not at
people
all.
need to grab a hold of that because our school system is trained to teach kids that way. Sit down, 45 minutes, bell rings, get up, turn left again, sit down, bell rings, do your thing. Okay. And we homeschooled our kids all the way through, so I'm going to be a little biased, but there's a different way to develop it. Okay. But we have to understand, like we talked about a little bit earlier, like this Gen Z, Gen Alpha, where are these guys coming from? What are they exposed to? What do they see now? I think you said in the beginning really well, the time off, the work hours, the place they're going to work. Now, I can sit here as a guy who's, Gen X. I'm the first Gen X year, so I can get confused for a boomer, but I'm not. That's my father. But I look at that and it's like, well, okay, just because, again, I think you should do it this way, it just isn't going to work. So how do we shape that? What's your experience? This is the question for you. When you look at these, now we have to tailor either the existing business has to be tailored and shifted to accommodate this new workforce, right? Is it kind of a give and take on both sides? There's always kind of compromise, but what does that actually look like? What's been your experience with that?
I think there's this mindset that in order to accommodate, you have to shake your entire foundation. That's not my recommendation. My recommendation is to shake your communication. if you start with recognizing and realizing what is it that each of these generations value, what is it that they're motivated by, what are some of the things that may be triggering events or character forming events that have happened in their lifetime. So we know COVID shook the foundation, right? We have millennials and Gen X who were shaken by 9/11, like that happened when we were in the prime of teenagehood and in the prime market of adulthood, right? So we have these pivotal things that happen in our life that shape us. When it comes to millennials and Gen Z, if we're just talking that group, they care about feedback. They care about being seen as people. They want to know that their leaders actually care about them progressing, not just a cog on the wheel of work in the business, right? I'm not just here to help you accomplish your dreams. I'm here as a step in me accomplishing mine also. And that's why that other piece, like I mentioned competencies, but that other piece was going to be communication. And when you're a leader who's effective, when you're a leader that people want to follow, especially millennials and Gen Z, you're actually having conversations with your employees. You'll hear in the medical world and a few other places, they'll say you round. You're getting out there and you're getting around. You're talking to each one of your employees and you're getting to know them, what motivates them, and where they want to go as individuals. When you start to do that, you start to figure out what is it that I need to do in my organization that's going to make me attractive to this group. How is my communication set up? How do we celebrate? How do I give feedback? All of those different things are going to be what matters to those groups and whether or not they feel like they belong at your organization. And I know some words are like, trigger words, like don't say inclusion anymore and all of that jazz. But in reality, when you think about what's important to Gen Z, that's important to them. They
Right.
want to feel like they have the ability to give input. They have the ability to contribute, the ability to challenge. They want to know that they can learn. And if you don't have those things set up in your organization, that's where you start. You start with conversations and you start with communication.
That's awesome. Now, I'm going to be very transparent here. If you were giving me, if we were having this conversation 15 years ago, okay, I'd be like, Priscilla, you're out of your mind. Okay, I ain't doing that. Okay, I'm not having a conversation. I'm not doing any of that. I'm telling you, be like, I would have just laughed you out of the room. And but overall, and now with, what's wild? We think exactly the same. Okay, I'm exactly, and it's odd for me. Like if people haven't seen me in 15 years, hear me talking like this, where's Richard? What'd you do with
Who
him?
are you?
Okay.
Body
Yeah.
swap.
So it really is that. And what makes me kind of happy is I'm not a dinosaur.
You're not.
I'm not that guy who's stuck in 1994, or whatever. I love this because I've seen it now. I've implemented it with my clients and their businesses and it works. Okay. And that's what I'm a
It
results
does.
guy. Okay. I love results. So when I see something work, that's a result. Why'd it work? Then I find out, really? You had to do that? Now, here's my point. Everything you're saying is right? And people go, okay, that's great. I go, but here's the bad news. It's actually work to put that in place. Okay. This
Yes.
is not snap your fingers. Next week, we're going to have the happy culture. Okay. It's not, but you have to build out these lanes, right? And the same thing I do with my clients, just like you do with yours. We have to build out maybe it's going to take a year. Maybe it's going to take 18 months. Maybe it's going to take 2 years because you got to do one at a time. But then pretty soon everything works together and everything has a process. Everything has a system. And I've watched my clients do that. And the other end, it's freedom. It's profit, freedom, and impact. That's what they're able to do that now. They couldn't do that before they did everything that we just talked about in this interview. Right. So I just want people to grab a hold of this, and whether you're taking notes or you're going to watch it again or whatever, there's so many great things, okay, that you touched on here that it's not, I want to say it seems like common sense, because it's not. Like I said, it wasn't me 15 years ago, but
No.
it is the way you have to think to adapt to the new marketplace. And like you said, we've seen all these changes, these big world events. We've seen what they've done. We've seen them take out hundreds of thousands of businesses because they weren't able to pivot. They weren't flexible
Mm-hmm.
enough, right, to do
Mm-hmm.
this stuff. They weren't agile enough to make these
Mm-hmm.
changes and stay on the front edge. You got to be out in front on this. If you get comfortable, I use it in like the trades, like you got all these 55-year-old, carpenters or masonry guys, these young guys, Gen Zs, they don't want to do that work. I mean,
No,
look, the
it's
guy can barely
backbreaking.
walk now. Yeah, he's all broken. He walks with a limp and everything else. He's climbing up a
Yeah.
scaffold still. He's like, I'm not doing that. And they're making fun because they got robots that can do masonry. And these old guys are making fun. Well, this kid, all he needs is a screwdriver. And he's going
Mm-hmm.
to fix it. He's going to set the GPS and off it goes. He's going to monitor that. There's nothing wrong with that. I just can tell people, there's nothing wrong with that. That's where it's
Mm-hmm.
going. So get the people who want to do it. And it's
Yes.
ideal when you brings people in. Now you're in the front and you'll see
Mm-hmm.
how good it is because you may not be an early adopter, especially in our industries, right? When you see it and you start to employ it a little bit at a time, you'll get it. We've all
Mm-hmm.
done that with different things in our life. Didn't think it was
Mm-hmm.
going to be as good. And all of a sudden, wow, I'm really glad I did that. I'm really glad she showed me that, because I would have never bought that. But they showed me what it can do and I started using it. And that's the difference. To me, it's the big mindset shift. And you spoke about that earlier too. I think we all have to start thinking so completely, like radically different in the way that we talked about because our businesses depend on it. It really does because we need people. You can say AI is going to take over everything and all that. They're not. It's going to be another tool. It may do a lot of things. It may eliminate some things, but we have to work with it. And people are always going to be a component of work because we're made to work. So how do we do it? Maybe it's less people, right? But how do we get the best people to work for us for that
Yeah.
position and for the things coming forward, right? So that's just awesome. Any kind of final thoughts on kind of the topic here you want to share?
If I were to wrap it all up, it would echo almost what you said, Richard. It takes time for culture to change. People stay in organizations for the culture because right now you can transition jobs every 3 years and increase your income by almost 15% every time that you do it. So if a person is staying at an organization, if you have people that you want to stay, you really have to focus on the culture that you're building. You have to focus on how you're making sure they feel like they're in the right place, that they feel like they belong truly in your organization. You have to focus on how are you growing them? How are you giving them the tools that they need in order to feel like they're reaching their potential and they're going to reach their goal? Give them the opportunity to feel like they're adding value to your organization, that they're truly influencing and impacting it, and then give them room to challenge you. Let them know like you grow by shaking the table a little bit. And once you can accomplish that and truly accomplish it and get the feedback of the people that you're working with and have them say, yep, that's the culture that exists here, then you're on the right track.
Yeah, that is powerful. I mean, I emphasize that all the time, because our hardest thing is or employee acquisition and then retention.
True.
Just like
True.
in business, it's get clients, keep clients. Hardest thing to do is get clients and keep clients. So they parallel each other, right? It's hard to get people to
Yes.
work for you and stay work for you. Hard to get clients and keep clients. So it's
Yeah,
a tandem thing. They run in parallel, but we have to master both to be successful in
we
business.
do.
And you're 100% right on the culture aspect. A word that is not overused, it's misunderstood. I think the culture thing, it's just like when people say work-life balance. You need work-life balance. They don't have a clue what it is, right? They don't know what it takes. They like to throw the word out there, but they don't really understand. When you say you want to shift your company culture, you know what I'm going to tell you? Well, buckle up because this is
Mm-hmm.
going to be a ride. Okay. This is not, you're going to be nicer to people. Okay. That's not going to change your culture, right? We just spent an hour talking about what you have to do to change your culture. I mean, this is a training hour that we just did. Okay. Like maybe we should sell this. Should
Hey,
sell this
I
training,
am,
but it's
I
what you
am
do.
on
It is
board.
what you do. So I'll give it to you, and you can give it to your clients. And on that note, how do people get a hold of you? How do they follow you? I know you do this coaching, you do this stuff on the executive level and beyond. You've got a ton of experience in this. So how can people connect with you to get more information, hire you, whatever they got to do? What does that look like?
Well, if you're looking for me via social media, you can find me on LinkedIn. It's my first and last name, Priscilla El-Amin. If you're interested in contacting me directly via email, again, it's my first and last name, but it's Priscilla.Elamin, no hyphen, because Gmail doesn't like hyphens. So Priscilla.Elamin@gmail.com. I'd love to just sit down and help you brainstorm, problem solve, see what it is that you're working with to begin with, so that you can figure out how to move your team, how to move your business.
It's awesome. I think, and I'll make this quick, discovery calls are really important. All my listeners, all you business people, you see it and you get freaked out. Okay, someone will call it a discovery call. You think like, listen, we got to start somewhere. We got to get some information. Okay, we need to know what your challenges are. How do you expect anyone to help you if we don't know what your challenges are? So book that time, whether it's 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. We have to do that. We want to serve you. Okay, we want to change your culture. We want to help your business. We want to get you systemized. We can't do that if you won't engage with us. Okay, so I'm just throwing that out there as a reminder to everybody who gets a little gun shy. Okay, we're not here to take anything. We're here to help you and assist you and make sure that we're the one that can help you.
Exactly.
Right? Because you and I both tell people, no, you got the
Yes.
wrong person.
Yes.
Nope, you don't need me. Not yet. You're about 3 years away from needing me. Okay, but you got to go talk to this guy and this guy, and they're going to get there, right? So, and I say that because we're not all things to all people. We understand our skill sets. We know how to apply them to be the most effective and to get the results that you truly want as a client. And that's important. There's an integrity aspect to that and everything else, but I'll leave it at that because I just like to put that out there once in a while because I don't think I say that enough. Priscilla, this has been just a breath of fresh air. This has been, I knew it was going to be an awesome conversation. I'm going to ask the audience right now, this is an unplanned, straight up regular conversation. We didn't go over questions. We didn't do anything, right, Priscilla? This is straight up like conversation. So we're legit. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
When you know your stuff, and you go back and forth as we're not complete strangers, but here we are on a podcast. And I hope you all get a ton of takeaways. Take these notes, listen to it again, like, subscribe, all the cool stuff you do with podcasts, especially mine. Get a hold of Priscilla, go through those conversations, see what we can do. We need to adapt for the future for our businesses. So that being said, we'll see everyone on the next STS podcast. And don't forget, revenue feeds the ego, profit feeds the family. So if you want to see how I can show you at least $100,000 in hidden annual profits in less than 3 minutes, and not only show you where, but how to create that 100K in 6 months or less without additional advertising or marketing spend, guaranteed, just go to sharpenthespiritcoaching.com. See how truly simple it is. That's sharpenthespiritcoaching.com. Do it now.